Well, the 11th head coach in Griffin's franchise history, Ben Simon, who, by the way, if you remember, they didn't interview anybody else. This is how highly touted Ben Simon was, and his background was that he was going to be the guy to replace Todd Nelson. Benny, a couple of years later, hoping for a third season behind the Griffins bench as a head coach. And we hope that it starts in October, but who knows? Speculation is going to be the prominent word I think we're going to use here today, right?
Yeah, no, hey Bob, it's good to see you from afar here. It has been a little bit kind of uncertain, and it is a lot of speculation right now. But yeah, you have to be a little bit cautiously optimistic and hope for the best here. And if it's not what you hope for, you just got to kind of roll with the punches.
You go back, and I do want to mention again that when Ken Holland and Ryan Martin were tasked with replacing Todd Nelson, which at the time wasn't sure he was going to be leaving. But eventually did, and they interviewed nobody else. Ben Simon's the only guy they interviewed. You had that job locked up. And that's quite a testament, Ben, in the world of professional hockey, professional sports, where you've done enough to earn that opportunity.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, but 95% of life is time and place, and there were some other opportunities at that time that were starting to present themselves. And, long story short, there was no other job or no other place that we would rather be as a professional where I was at and am at with my career, and from a family perspective and from an organizational perspective was, it was just a perfect fit. And I'm glad that everything kind of came together. I'm glad it came together quickly.
Yeah, how strange our times right now. Ben Simon lives, about a 3-wood away from me? Well, of course, for you, about a 7-iron, but I never see you, other than maybe from time to time watching you get lapped on the track down there.
Yeah, well, I'm 2 drivers, a lost ball, a kicked ball, and a hand wedge from your house. But yeah, it is funny. We do live pretty close, and just with these times, and we've been taking this stay-at-home thing to heart. We're not putting ourselves or putting other people in harm's way, and being respectful of trying to get this, doing our part to try and get this back to a little bit more semblance of normal life as soon as possible. So I guess there's 2 solutions. One is you can come be another one of the people to lap me on the track, or
that won't be happening.
He can continue to do Zoom calls. So you can pick your poison.
Yeah, that's I had a health scare a little while ago. I might want to avoid that track, at least for the near future anyway.
That's a good point. Yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah, all right, fair enough.
One thing has become so apparent with you, and you have such a passion for the game, the way you played it, the way you coach it, your love with of your players, your respect of your players. And right now it's got to be a little bit of a scary time for you, I'm guessing. You're trying to stay in touch with everybody, concerns about coronavirus. You even dig deeper and you find Moritz Seider, both his parents deal with the elderly over in Germany. I think Giovanni Smith's mother also takes care of the elderly. And obviously that's got to be a bit of concern for you and the well-being of your players.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of worries. Throughout the year, you almost become, you're a big family. So these are kind of family members, surrogate family members, the players and the staff and the front office. You're all kind of part of the same group. And you do have worries, especially now that people have gone home to their own homes and they've got their own, their real families to worry about. And obviously people have jobs, and some of them require them to be working out a little bit more intimately with people that have more of a potential to contract this virus. So you hope for the best, and you want to try and make sure that that everyone's staying as healthy as possible and doing all the right things, and hope that this passes. They're always saying this too shall pass, but it just seems like this is taking a little bit longer to pass.
Yeah, no kidding. Are you staying? I'm assuming you're in touch with everybody, right? And how's everyone doing? Any stories coming out of some of the conversations with your guys?
Well, we had exit interviews now it is official, but we had some meetings over Zoom, over FaceTime, over the phone, just end of the year stuff. And some guys had a lot of questions, other guys didn't have a lot of questions. So some guys, when you FaceTimed them, were at the crack of noon, just getting up. I won't mention Turner Elson's name. But I think the guys, for the most part, are, in a good frame of mind. And, dealing with this as best possible.
And that's let's see, Elsa's from Western Canada, so Eastern time is getting up to 3 in the afternoon, right? You're talking
Yeah.
12
Well,
local.
he's in Michigan. He's staying.
Oh, is he here? Okay.
He's locking down here, staying relatively close over in Plymouth.
Disappointing, obviously. The team was surging right there before everything hit. It looked like you were on your way to an 8th consecutive season in which the Griffins would be in the playoffs, and feeling good about the team too, Benny. I mean, I know in talking to you those weeks leading up to, before this all came down, you were very optimistic about this team's chances down the stretch and into the postseason.
Yeah, well, again, we did, at the end of the day, this is unfortunate. And I've been reading a lot of a lot of other coaches are saying the same thing. They were happy and proud of their group. But I think this year's group that we had in Grand Rapids was very unique with, we still had the requisite number of vets, and at times we had a veteran problem. So we had a great group of veteran players, proven players, but we also had a ton of younger players. So I think there was a tremendous growing curve and learning curve that, throughout the year that where we left the season kind of in this pause, and obviously now that it's canceled, some of these younger players were getting significant minutes, were getting playing prominent roles on the team, and really starting to come into their own. So I think from January 8th on, we were 15-8-1-2. So we're playing pretty well, trending in the right direction. And I would have been interested to see this group in playoffs. Throughout the course of Grand Rapids, the last 5 years, 6 years, you have different groups that have all gone on to playoffs, and each one has their strengths, their perceived weaknesses. And I think this team it would have been an interesting team to go into playoffs, just with the dynamic and the makeup of the group and the strengths that we had as a unit.
And you talk that word speculation that's going to come into play here a few times before we're done with this interview. But looking down the road, obviously missing out on the playoffs. It's as a player and having made long runs yourself, winning a couple of titles, what it takes to get there, and the value you get out of that, and the value the NHL team gets out of it to watch their prospects in that that critical evaluation time. So it's a lost opportunity, no doubt, for some of these young guys and for you as a coach.
Yeah, no, for sure. Playoff hockey is, and it's hard to describe, but everything's ratcheted up a little bit more. Every little play means a little bit more, and the pressure is a lot more significant. But that being said, if you look at the season, our November wasn't great. I think we were 4-10 in November. Credit to the players in the locker room and the guys that were sent down from Detroit, the guys that were called up from Toledo, the guys that were there from day one. They dug themselves out of a hole and put themselves in a playoff position at the time the season was canceled. And from that point on, really from middle of December on, although there weren't, we didn't have a playoffs, I think there were a ton of meaningful games. The Milwaukee and Iowa really took off in the Central Division. So, 1 and 2 were pretty much locked up, but for the playoffs for spots 3 and 4, there were really four or five teams that were really in contention, fighting every week for that 3rd and 4th spot. And there's a lot of jockeying that went on down the stretch here. And then obviously we had still 13 games to play, but I think a lot of our players, although it wasn't playoffs per se, there were still meaningful, significant games and significant situations that they can learn and grow from moving forward.
When you saw the growth, it was really fun to watch. Veleno, Sider, Lindstrom, Smith. Benny, I know as a coach you got to temper enthusiasm, but if a Red Wing fan asks you, hey, give me reasons why I should be optimistic about the future of the Detroit Red Wings, I think you got plenty of them, don't you?
Yeah, well, again, it's we've got a lot of young, really talented prospects, and it's funny. It's not just a bunch of skilled, talented, high-end skilled guys. We've got a lot of different, kind of character type players as well. It's not just 1 or 2 guys that that NHL caliber skill, which we do have, but we have got other guys that can fit different roles at the NHL level that I think with the different roles that Detroit's going to need to fill in the future, there's a lot of optimism that fans should have, because there are a lot of solid players down here that are going to be knocking on the door in a couple of years.
Yeah, no doubt. And I guess that back to that word speculation. Now, you know about as much as anybody. What's hockey going to look like at all levels? I mean, specifically the American Hockey League, but at all levels. There's talk of players having to wear plastic shields in front of their faces as opposed to the cages, which professional. Nobody wears a cage unless you're protecting injury. Who knows? I mean, there's just so every day we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone several months from now.
Yeah, well, it is kind of crazy, but how is it going to look from a playing point of view? How is it going to look from a fans dynamic? How is it going to look from a locker room standpoint? Like, what are the precautions that are going to be either implemented from a government point of view? What are the standards and health and safety precautions that are going to be taken from each and every organization's personal standpoint? So, it's crazy right now just to think of how things can change, but again, we'll roll with the punches. And I mean, obviously the safety of the players and the health of the players is our utmost concern, and we have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep them healthy.
All right, Benny, I got one of the best texts I've gotten all summer, although it kind of scared me at first. Like Ben Simon sending me this text, and I'm thinking, oh boy, I hope he's okay with it. Although I laid it on the line to him back in his playing days, 2006. You wind up in a Griffin uniform. We're in Syracuse where you had been playing, actually. And I told you right out of the gate before I even started the interview with you, I didn't like you as a player. So you send me this text that I guess Pogorski had given you. Listen to this. You obviously know all about it because you sent it to me.
Chernick setting up in front. He's mentioned to get a stick on, and now we got some tempers going again. Derek King with great vision as always.
Your old buddy Derek King.
To the left side, to the right side, put it in front for the tip, and we're going to have more penalties here as well. Usayev and I think Snyder. Now we got Simon going after Chernick.
Here it is.
Here's a guy who, if you go down the list of those that are probably the most disliked as far as opponents are concerned, that guy right there, Ben Simon, would definitely.
So I laid it on the line to you.
Most disliked. The most disliked.
Top 5, I think I had you in. But what did Derek King tell you when you shared that with him too?
Well, I was out for a run, and again, Larry Pogorski. It was probably for one of the Griffins on this date back in 70 years ago. Dug that clip up and he sent it to me, and so of course Derek King, who's the head coach in Rockford, who's a good friend of mine, I sent it to him, and he had a few choice words for me as well that probably made your words look very kind, but. That was kind of the fun of playing. Those are the little things you miss as a player, is those little moments on the bench after a whistle. There's a lot of things you miss about the game, but when Larry sent that to me, it was kind of funny. It was refreshing to go back and see. So I sent it to you, and you were. And that was probably one of the nicer things you had to say about me.
So. Well, you know what? For a player like you, the way you played the game, that was a great compliment, right? You love to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I was
You're doing your job.
Never the most skilled guy, and you tried to get under guys' skin without taking penalties, and sometimes you were effective doing so, and other times you ended up with your nose punched in. You did the wrong thing to the wrong guy. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Benny, and I mean this in all sincerity, and I think I've said this to you before. If I were to put a team together that I knew had a chance to win championships, Ben Simon would be one of the first players I would choose. You look at your background as a player and a coach, you're just a winner through and through. It's great to have you in Grand Rapids. Please stay safe. Say hi to Beth and the girls for me. I appreciate you doing this, Benny. We'll see you again soon, huh?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Stay safe and enjoy the time with both your boys under the roof.
Yeah,
They have to abide by your rules, I think, right?
Not mine. My wife's, Rosalie. She rules the roost.
Fair enough. At least you're
all
smart.
Right.
On paper.
Thanks, Benny.